All right. Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm just getting my stream going on YouTube, and then I'll start talking here. All right, we are live. Let me turn this off. Hey, everybody, can you see me and hear me? So today we are talking gardening, basic skills. If you guys saw my recent video all about picking transplants, how to, there we go, everything's working, cool. I'm still getting used to streaming and everything. So yeah, been trying to put out some gardening content all about basic stuff. So if you're new to gardening or wanting to learn how to do this, my goal this week is to give you the basics. So today's video was all about going to Home Depot, or if you're going to go to a local nursery, which is an even better place to go, how to pick a really healthy transplant, and then how to come home, how to amend your beds, what is a really simple and easy compost to buy at Home Depot, or what to look for if that's what you're trying to get. So yeah, I hope people enjoyed it. Tomorrow's video is going to be all about planting transplants, planting potatoes. You know, when you're trying to plan out your garden, looking at the placement of your crops, where you would want to put them. So it should be really informative, all about planting. And if you guys are on the YouTube chat, someone say something so I can see that it is working correctly. Looks like we're good to go. Connection's good. I'm on my Wi-Fi here at the house, real close to the router, so it should be working good. Hey, what's up, Nick? So Nick asks on Instagram, how do I turn a lawn into usable soil really quickly? Well, there's a lot of ways that you could do that. One really simple way would just be to do a raised bed garden. So you could take out the grass a few different ways. You could get a sod cutter. It's a machine that'll just cut it. If that would only use a sod cutter if you're going to be doing a large area. If the other way would just be you could put a tarp over the grass to kill it. You could use like a pickaxe or a shovel to take the grass out, turn the grass over, and it will die and just become soil. And then put compost on top of that for your raised bed, and then just grow straight into that. If you're going to do a market gardening setup, then that's going to be a larger area. I would just get a sod cutter, cut it, flip the grass over, and then from there you can either do like a sheet mulch where you're covering it with cardboard or straw, add compost on top, and plant into that, and the grass shouldn't come back on you. But there's a lot of different ways. I've got a lot of great videos showing a couple different ways that I started my home plots. Let's see here. I don't see any chats on YouTube, so let me see here. Oh, there we go. Oh, it's not showing me on my main screen, but I got you guys now. Cool. Yeah, drag strip. Matt says mulch, another great way to deal with grass. If you do have a rhizomous grass though, like Bermuda, that takes a lot more work. That's where tarps and flame weeders come in. But today's videos and streams is more sort of a basic approach, you know, people just getting started with gardening. Hey Elijah, hey Dave, hey Bryant, hey Christy, hey DK, Andrew, hey Sweet Bee, hey Josh, hey Joel, hey Kimberly, hey Kevin, hey Babette. Cool, good to see you guys. Hey Kimberly, thanks for joining in. So I'll start answering some questions here. Thanks for helping me get the stream going correctly. So yeah, no dig. We're always talking about no-till, not turning the soil, keeping that soil biology super healthy. Charles Dowding is a fantastic teacher of no-till gardening. So let's see here. Let's see Cameron's question here. He says, Steve, I have my plot tarp for market garden next year, debating on whether or not to till in compost or just lasagna on top of it. So if you have the money to just buy a bunch of compost and dump on top, then that's what I'd recommend doing. I've done it a couple different ways, and hold on here. Okay, I don't know if the Wi-Fi is not good enough or what. So if you have enough money to purchase compost, then what I would do is do what I did on my second urban plot that you can see on my YouTube channel, where I just brought in like 10 inches of compost. I did, it had Bermuda grass, which is a rhizomatous grass. It spreads by seed too, so it's really bad stuff. I dug out the big clumps of that. I put down cardboard, and then I brought in about 10 inches of compost per bed on top of that. And that gave me just fantastic results. So, and I highly recommend it. Like when you try your own homegrown garlic, it's amazing. So Andrew says, please discuss the need to add nutrients to plants and planters as the growing season progresses. Well, that's going to depend on how much, how fertile your garden beds are to begin with. If they're already super fertile, at the beginning of the gardening season, just adding in some compost, a little bit of organic fertilizer is probably going to be enough for you to get through the season. If it's not, then adding compost a couple different times throughout the season, or maybe you've been growing your tomatoes or your squash or whatever, some of your fruiting crops, they've been growing for a couple months, they've been putting out fruit. Sometimes, especially near the end of the summer, you can tell that they're starting to slow down in their production. And that's typically a good time if you want to fertilize again or add more compost again. It can get them restarted and start pumping out more green leaves, which are going to suck in solar energy and help produce more fruit. So for me, I think that composting at the beginning of season when you plant, then compost again in the middle of summer to keep things going and producing at the highest level is what I'd recommend. Sam B 1600 says, "Hey Steven, I'm worm composting. How many worms per tote? My system's all ready. I'm just not sure what the best bedding is." Well, I have a video all about that. It's called like the best worm food or something like that. And I go over all the bedding and all that sort of information. But for getting a tote started, I mean, you could just start with a softball size amount of worms and throw it in there, and they will be able to inoculate that whole tote. If it's a large tote, it's just going to take longer for them to grow out in that bed. If you want to get your totes going really fast, then yeah, a couple pounds would be great, and they'll be able to inoculate that, go real quickly. Once their population expands to the maximum in that tote, now you can take that and make another couple more totes, and you can continue that process, and you'll have an unlimited amount of worms and castings eventually. And if you guys are watching on Instagram and you want to ask a question, I'll try to answer you guys' questions on Instagram as I can, but if you go onto my YouTube channel and ask me there, I'll for sure be able to answer it. Thanks Matt Drexler Farm for moderating as usual. He's got a great YouTube channel. He's building his market farm right now over in Florida. Let's see, Christy, can you touch on watering? I'm a newbie and last fall I fell victim to overwatering. Yeah, so watering is one of the more difficult skills with gardening. I definitely have to say that. And tomorrow's video and Wednesday's video, I'm going to give a bunch of tips on watering. So I hope that helps you as well. But the biggest thing I guess I could say is go out in your garden every single day to your plants and just dig down an inch or two into the soil and see what that moisture is like. And I recommend watering really deeply, less often. So you'll, when you plant your plant, you're going to really saturate that soil and get it really wet. And after that, you can kind of let the plant do its thing. It's going to start in that first week, it's starting to spread out its roots and go out to seek water and nutrients and all of that. And over time, as the plant gets older and older, that root system is going to get farther spread out, deep and wide, especially if you have really good biology in your soil. So the plant is going to do a lot of that work for you. So in that first week after transplanting, you got to make sure it's totally wet. It doesn't have a big root system to go out to find the water. But after, into that second week, the third week, the fourth week, you should start backing off on the water, especially in fall or spring when the sun is not as intense. In full summer, then you could just water every single day. It's pretty hard to overwater if you're having temps of 85, 90 or higher. But like I said in the beginning, go with your finger and check around the plant an inch or two. If it's totally wet right there and you fully saturated the ground after transplant, then you really don't need to add water. It's going to be fine. If you're noticing it is dry in that top inch, then it's and you go a little deeper and there's not much water, then I would water. Plants seem to run into issues with overwatering when that first top couple inches stays wet all the time. So that's a little bit of advice for you on that. Hey Damien, yeah, most of my videos on YouTube are all about the market garden that I built over the last 3.5 years here in San Diego. So I showed everything from cover crops to tilling and creating beds to creating no-till beds, lower and lean trellises for tomatoes, very intensive style gardening, interplanting. So if you look on my channel, most of the stuff I talk about on there is for more, high production market gardening content. Tips on trimming tomatoes. I have a couple videos on that, on pruning. I'd recommend watching that because you need to see what it looks like to really understand how to do that. My buddy Elijah, what's up, man? He's been really getting into the Korean natural farming. I just saw he was making OHN, Oriental Herbal Medicine, which is one of the harder ones to make. And he asked, how long do you keep lab or lactic acid bacteria in the fridge? I don't want to say indefinitely, but over time it will start losing its potency, but up to a year. As long as you smell it, it smells really good, has that kind of yogurty smell, it's good to go. But if you can use it up within a month to 3 months, that's where it'll be most active and higher potency during that time. I always like storing lab in the fridge. You can super saturate it, but I recommend just keep it in the fridge. Have I compared liquid iron? We're getting into some more intense questions here. I'll come back to that one. Let's see here. I want to try to help the new gardeners. So let's see. Bryant says, "Hi Steve, what are your thoughts on grow boxes for starting out? Have limited space, and from what I see, they look promising." Grow box? Do you mean a grow bag? Well, whichever you mean. They are fantastic, I think, for small gardening. I this last season I got like 150 grow bags from Bootstrap Farmer, and I grew peppers. What else? Peppers, kale, chard, cilantro, parsley, dill, and I really loved them for peppers and all of those smaller crops that have that small stature. I did try doing some tomatoes in there, but unless you're going to build a nice trellis for them, it doesn't work as good. I feel like tomatoes like to be in soil, in the ground. But one of my favorite things about the grow bags, or if, I don't know if it's a box that you can move or not, but what's cool about the grow bags is you can move them, so you can change their location. Like cilantro, for instance, is famous for bolting. You can take it out of a full sun hot area in the summer and then move it to a shadier spot where it is going to be less likely to bolt. So that's something I love about doing that. And container gardening is fantastic. If you're in an apartment or somewhere where you can't really do a nicer raised bed or an in-ground bed, then that is, it works great. You can do basically anything in those. So just have good compost, good soil in there, and they'll take off. Okay, Melissa says, "Hi Steve, we're a family in Imperial Valley, which is really close to San Diego. What nutrients do you recommend to make your own soil for seed starting? Well, I have a video about that. It's called Make the Perfect Potting Mix, something like that. For me, what I do for my potting mix or seed starting mix, I do 1/3 compost, 1/3 peat or coco coir, and 1/3 perlite. Or in the summer when I want a little bit more moisture retention, I like to use 1/3 vermiculite. Vermiculite, if you want to know the difference between that and perlite, vermiculite will hold a lot more moisture. Perlite will drain and dry out much quicker. Um, and if your compost is really good, you really won't need to add anything else to that. But I think adding worm castings, especially if you're making your own worm castings, it's free. That's a fantastic fertilizer that you can mix into your seedling mix there. I don't know, you could mix it in at like 5%. I also like to add in azomite rock dust minerals, or I'll dilute some some kelp or seaweed, something like that. For minerals, that's another great thing I like to add in there so that your plants have all the biology, all the minerals, all the NPK, everything in there from day one. And I'm just a big believer that, just like human beings, when we have all of our nutrition, our bodies or the plant's bodies can produce all the different chemicals they need to defend themselves, to have good root growth, to have good leaf growth, so that they can create good solar panels that are going to be able to absorb the sun. So there's a few tips about that. See, Thomas is asking, is there any crops to put on borders to prevent small animals like rabbits or groundhogs and rodents? So this is a tough one. The rodents, rabbits, all that stuff. Some of these animals like deer, even rabbits, you can exclude them and keep them out of the area so that they're not getting in there. Things like rats, squirrels, groundhogs, it's much harder to keep those guys out. So for like rabbits, you can, like a 3-foot fence can keep those guys out. Groundhogs, if you're doing a raised bed, you can put chicken wire underneath, or hardware cloth if you want it to last 10 years or more. And that will keep them from coming up and in. If you're talking rats or squirrels, the only thing that I've ever seen work on a farm or on a home garden is to trap and eliminate them. Or you have to bring in some sort of predator like a cat, or do an owl box, or things like that can help. Like in my urban area, I had tons of neighborhood cats, which that totally took care of any mice or rat or squirrel, any of those, or gophers even. I never had any of that on my main home plot because there's so many cats. But over at my secondary plot, I did have some gophers, and I just trapped them with the trap called the black hole. That's my favorite gopher trap. It works excellent. So yeah, rats are basically the worst that you could have. Another thing is eliminate the area where they live. Some people will have, sometimes that's hard to do if your neighbor has a bunch of trash and junk that they don't clean up, or a bunch of like cut down trees where they want to live, or palm trees. You can't really stop that. But if you can clean up certain areas where you think that they're living, that can help prevent that issue as well. If you've got, so Kui Churn says, this person has lots of ants in the pots. How can I prevent it? So ants, a great natural solution is borax with sugar water. There's lots of recipes online that you could look up for that. And that's how you can eliminate like a nest that is nearby. And ants are an issue a lot of times because they will actually mine aphids. So they'll take aphids, they'll put them onto the plants, use them as their slaves essentially, and then they will take the sugary substance that they extract from the plants and then feed themselves that. So that's where ants can become an issue. And we have these are Argentinian non-native ants in San Diego, and I think the whole Southwest, and they're pretty prolific, and they'll take out our native ants even and totally take over. So that's one way. I also noticed that ants, if the soil is really moist, they don't want too much to do with very moist soil. So if you're occasionally deep watering, that might be able to help, or just blast them with water. But borax is a really pretty good solution for them. Someone on Instagram, this is a good one. Maybe not for the home gardener, but possibly maybe if you're going to buy a new home and you're thinking about gardening there. High Desert Growing says, do you recommend testing your soil for nutrients? Well, in general, I think testing is pretty good if you want to test for heavy metals or possible contaminants or toxins in your soil, especially if you're growing at home in the ground soil, because different homeowners, like, they dump oil, they dump paint, they're fixing their car out in their backyard possibly. There's a lot of different potential scenarios. So like when I was farming in my urban plots, I tested to make sure I wasn't gonna have my plants uptake a bunch of heavy metals or cadmium. So, but testing for nutrients, like, in my opinion, you can, but I'm not like a reductionist in my thinking. Like I think you can. It's good to test and observe and watch the nutrients change, but I'm not someone who's like, okay, well, this and this is missing. I need more phosphorus. I need more of this. So then I'm going to come in and add those nutrients or minerals in a specific ratio to try to change it. You can do that. Lots of farmers do that. Some people have the philosophy, like Charles Dowding. I just bring in natural or organic compost and natural things, and the biology and the organic matter is actually what's going to provide the nutrition to my plant. So I'm more in that camp, but it can be done either way. Yeah, you can grow garlic 2 times a year in San Diego, absolutely. And then for corn, yeah, for good pollination, you want to do 2 rows in your bed so that they're right next to each other, so that when the wind blows, it'll blow the pollen and it will pollinate itself. Sometimes if you can get bad pollination on corn, and that will when the corn grows, you'll notice a bunch of places where the kernels are missing, and that's places where the pollination wasn't perfect. No problem, Quee. Glad to answer your question. Sweet Bee says, have you raised fruit trees or seen anything awesome with the recent trip that I went on? Sure. Yes, I've raised fruit trees. I've grafted a lot of fruit trees. I've planted a ton of fruit trees at my buddy Jared Smith's farm out at Jared's Real Food here in San Diego. And those trees are like, some of them are 7, 8 years old, I think now, something like that. And then at my home plot, I did grapes and berries and a couple citrus and apple trees. And they're fantastic. If you're growing, if you want to grow at home, the best time to plant a fruit tree is 5 years ago. It's going to take you 3 to 5 years before you start getting good fruit. So if you want to plant fruit trees, you got to get on it. And planting bare root fruit trees is the best way that you can do that for the health of a tree, and then for the cost, anywhere from $15 to $25 here in the U.S. you can get bare root fruit trees. GrowOrganic.com is a fantastic site, or you might have a local nursery. Let's see here. So Troy says, we've got a market gardener question. I just tilled my first 1,600 square feet. It's on a hefty incline, 15%. Oh man. So when it rains, it's clay and muddy, and it pools at the bottom. So I would say go check out this one video that Farmer's Friend put out on YouTube. And it's about this farmer I think he's in Switzerland, and they're on a super steep incline like you are. And it was pretty interesting because normally, from what I've always learned, is you want to plant on contour with the hill. So if the hill's sloping like this, your beds would be perpendicular to that so they could catch some of that rain. He put them going the same direction as the hill, and he planted some kind of native grasses in between, and by doing that, that slowed down the water. So that was fascinating. Go check that out. But you could also plant them on contour, and if I was doing that, one idea that I've had, but I haven't tested it, so on the hill itself, you've got your bed, And then in the pathway, in your next bed, obviously your pathway is going to be flat. And then in the pathway, I would dig it down, I don't know, 6 inches. I don't know how hard it is to dig, but in your spot. But if you can go 6 inches down to, almost 12 inches in that pathway and then throw a bunch of wood chips in there, that may help to slow the flow down. So if you look into building swales and so you can put your beds slightly off contour to help them shed water off. If they're you said you have kind of heavy clay, so maybe the water can't be absorbed into the ground very well. So maybe shedding that water off would be a better option. It's hard to give complete advice when I don't exactly know the situation, but so yeah, look into those on contour, off contour planting, swales. Check out that video by Farmer's Friend, and hopefully that will give you some more ideas. And thank you guys for watching the video. Please be sure to like the video for me, so it helps the algorithm go out to more people. And also share the videos that I've been making kind of for the beginning gardeners. With everything going on right now, I think everyone's noticing how fragile our system really is. And one of the big reasons I started a YouTube channel was try to help people to become more healthy, obviously, but also to get them unhooked from the system that we are a part of. The more resilient we can be, the less reliant we will be on government and these other entities, giant corporations where we're getting our stuff, the better we can be, the less control they will have over us. And to me, that's the best response that we can have to what's going on in the world right now, without getting into politics and stuff. But this is an amazing time. I'm seeing so many people interested in growing their own food, and it's just so exciting to me that people are interested in it, and more people are taking a go at it. So just want to try to help as many people as I can grow their own food. If you want to change your health in the most dramatic way, grow your own food, or buy food from a local farmer who's growing in a regenerative, beyond organic way, and it will change your life, I promise you. Let's see here. Cameron's making some FPJ. Awesome, more Korean natural farming. Hey, what's up, Hand-Drawn Bear? Where my bears at? So FPJs is also called fermented plant juice. And he's asking, do you know about how it works? So for Korean natural farming, guys, if you don't know what it is a way that we can make our own nutrients, our own microbial inoculants, our own ferments, pretty much every kind of mineral and nutrient that we really need. And it was created by Master Cho in Korea, and it's something that I've been talking more and more about on my channel. And I recently was in Korea. I got to go to Mr. Young-Chang Cho's farm, the Jadam farm. And Jadam is another form of Korean natural farming, different philosophy and methodology. But fermented plant juice, essentially what you're doing is you're taking the leaves of a plant, you could take the fruit of a plant, you're taking that, and then you're fermenting that 1-to-1 with brown sugar. And what that does is it's extracting out all the juices, the liquids, enzymes, even the microbes that live on the leaves when you're harvesting them. And it's putting them into stasis, basically, putting them asleep into that concentration of liquid that you extract at the end of that. And then you're taking that out and you can feed it to your teas, you can soil drench with it, you can spray it back onto the plants. So you could, like for instance, you would take tomatoes, ferment those, and then take that FPJ from the tomatoes, the fermented fruit juice, and then you would take that, dilute it like 1 to 1,000, spray it back onto the plant. And the idea is that you're giving them back nutrients, enzymes, the things that they're going to need to produce better fruit. That's kind of like a quick explanation of it. But Korean natural farming, Jadam, these are all things that I'm going to be getting into in a lot more depth on the channel this year. I'm going to be doing a lot more education this year. I'm hopefully going to be going to Chris Trump's 5-day intensive course. He's one of the best American teachers of Korean natural farming. yeah, I don't want to go too deep into that. That's a whole nother world of gardening and farming. Want to try to stay focused on the basics here. Let's see. I live in Metro LA. This is Lynetta. What are some tips for growing goji berries? My plant hardly bears any fruit. So goji berries are awesome. My parents are growing goji berries here. I don't know how long yours have been growing, but I think that it takes like, around 3 years before you're getting really much of anything on those things. Um, I know that I do not have a lot of knowledge on goji berries, but I know that you're not really supposed to prune them back too much. You kind of just let them go wild and grow up onto a trellis. I would really focus on your soil health. I don't know what they're growing in, or if they're in the ground or in a pot, but definitely be giving them some really high quality compost. You could soil drench them with like fish emulsion and some kelp or like azomite rock dust. And tomorrow's video, I'll be showing you what I did for a soil drench. And that's just a way of providing your plants like a super dose, a super shot of nutrition and microbes all in one go. So that's what I'd recommend. Make sure they have, if the plant has everything that it needs and it's getting enough sunlight. That's the other thing. If you have a fruit tree or a fruiting plant or a fruiting vegetable in a location that's not getting full sun, then that's also going to cause you to not get much fruit or not good quality fruit. So Misfit Maker says, if I grow starts from Home Depot in an organic way, does that make them organic? I think it does. According to the USD organic labeling bureaucracy, maybe not. But even if you're buying a conventionally grown start from Home Depot, once you get it into your really good soil, the plant's going to recover. It's going to come back, and it's going to get everything that it needs. So they charge more for the organically grown starts, which are just grown in USD organic grown soil. So, I don't really use organic seeds all the time just because they're more expensive. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But the plant is going to be able to respond in a good way. So I would say do what's in your budget and focus on the soil health of your garden beds or your in-soil beds, and then just go from there. So yeah, the organic, Marco on Instagram. If you guys want to follow somebody who's got a lot of knowledge on Korean natural farming and Jadam, check out Marco is Growing on Instagram. But he just said, organic's just another way to get into your pockets. The USD organic label is a complete joke. I mean, if you're buying vegetables from the store, it's a step above. It's better, but grow your own food. That's truly organic. Stephanie, let's see here. Oh, here we go. Analytical Chick says, I'm trying to figure out a grow light, super cheap. Yeah, you can use a shop light. What are they? The Flora, blanking on the name right now. FL something light. Yeah, just your standard, like what cheapo, like long tube lights. Those can definitely work. Or you can use, I think those are really good for starts. If you're going to grow a plant to like full size indoors, then I would just spend the money on LEDs. But for doing starts, just your standard like shop light will be good enough to get them going, and then get them out into the real sun. Of course, nature is going to provide the best solution. So getting them in real sun is definitely preferred. Let's see. Oh, Mira Yoon says, hey Mira, I built 5 raised beds. What would you recommend to plant now? She lives in NorCal, which is zone 9B. If you're not familiar with USDA zones, you should understand those. Go check them out. You just search the name of your state or your city and say USDA zone map. And so 9B, here in San Diego, we're like 10A, 10B. And that's just relating to like the coldest temperatures that you're going to see in your area. I'm guessing that you've already had your last frost date, Mira, so you can plant everything now. You can start putting all your transplants into the ground. Fluorescent, yeah, that's what I meant to say for lights, your fluorescent lights. So if you it's a little late to start planting like your tomatoes and all that stuff. Yeah, T5 fluorescence. Thank you guys. Like it's a you can start tomatoes now too. It's fine, but if you want to get a jump on your season, I'd go out to your local nursery and just go buy squash, tomatoes, all that stuff, and then get those in the ground now, and then plant your seeds for your backup transplants. So the things that you'll plant at the beginning, maybe June or July, as your second succession of planting to keep everything in high production and high quality. But so lettuce, kale, chard, radish, beets, carrots, cilantro, green onion, garlic, potatoes, you name it, you can put it in the ground now. This is the time to shine for farming. So some of you guys, if you're in a far northern area, you may have to wait a bit longer, but you should definitely have your seeds. If you have like a greenhouse or anything like that, you're good to go. So say KS Waterfall Fowl Hunter says, what type of bush beans do you recommend growing? I love the Provider bush beans. That's what I've been growing for a long time. The last couple years, I did a mix where I did like 80% Provider, which is a green bush bean that's very prolific. And then I did like 10% of, it's a purple bush bean. I'm blanking on the name. And then I did a yellow wax bean. And then my customers really loved that because in the bag, there's just, it's green, the kind of the few pieces of color in there, which is really fun. And so those are my favorites that I grew. I'm not a fan of the pole beans really, unless you're going to do stacking, like some interplanting, plant something under them and do the pole beans over the top, and you're going to get a lot more production that way. If you guys are enjoying this video, hit the like button for me. I'd really appreciate it. And let's see here. Doesn't have access to the real sun. She lives in the concrete jungle. Well, the fluorescence will do good for you for like greens. So if you want to do microgreens, even some like lettuce, I don't know, maybe kale and chard will be okay. They'll probably get pretty leggy. If you can put them near any window that you have, I'd recommend that. But do microgreens because that's a great way. You're not going to ever be able to grow like a lot of calories in an apartment, but do microgreens so you can get a ton of nutrition. So that would be my number one crop for anybody who can't get access to light and they have to use grow lights. And just the baby stage of a plant is going to respond better to a light spectrum and intensity that's not as good as the sun. So R. Goots says, my son pulled out all the labels for my tomatoes. Oh no. Do you know how I can tell if it's a determinate versus indeterminate? Well, by the way that it looks, how can I describe it? The determinate depends on the variety, honestly, but the determinate is going to put out a lot more shoots. It's going to get a lot more bushy. It will not grow as tall. The indeterminate will just keep growing forever and ever and ever, and you can keep training it. I don't know how to like tell you other than just let it keep growing, and then you'll see. Hand-drawn bear, what's up, buddy? It's still too early for tomato starts in Canada. Yeah, if you're in Canada, you don't want to put those out in the ground yet. But I don't know, if you have a greenhouse or maybe a heated greenhouse, it's possible. But I'm sure it's time to put your seeds, get your seeds at least going so you can have your transplants ready to go. But I've grown in San Diego my whole life, so I don't have a ton of advice for farther north people. John Doe says, planting a food forest. Nice, food forests are awesome. I definitely plan on, once I buy my property in Tennessee, we're going to be doing a crazy big orchard and food forest setup out there. Do you think an urban farm market works in a third world country? Yeah, that's a really good question. That's something I've wondered about too. I think it's definitely possible. I don't know what the right business model would be, because you're going to be competing with maybe more cheaply priced vegetables. but your cost of living, I'm sure, is pretty low as well. Um, the kind of style that I was doing, or Curtis Stone or JM, we're trying to sell things for the highest price to more high end restaurants or customers or things like that. So, um, but that's because we live in areas like in the city where our rent or our mortgage is much higher, so it makes a little more sense. I don't see why you couldn't make it work. As long as you have access to cheap land and making your own nutrients. And this is why one of the big reasons I want to dive deeper into Korean natural farming and Jadam. And these techniques were really developed for countries that maybe don't have access or money for compost or these things. So you can make a lot of your own nutrients naturally. So look into Jadam, and that's a way that you can really save yourself money on nutrients, or if you're going to use any type of pesticide, you can make your own naturally derived pesticides from plants. But I don't know, I do some market research, and I'd love to have an answer for you on that. I hope to be doing some more traveling to other countries, and that's exploring what's possible in other countries is something I'm very interested in seeing and talking about more. Thanks for checking in so early, 3 a.m. in Germany. Wow. Scott Dalton says, what's your preferred liquid feed? Well, I'm going to talk about that in tomorrow's video a little bit. But I'm a fan of worm and compost teas if you want to make it yourself. Some fish emulsion is always good. Kelp or seaweed, something with a bunch of minerals, is really important. So I always mix in azomite into my starter mix. Our Goots. Well, I'm glad your children are coming out and gardening with you. That's super fun. KS Waterfall says, what do you think about Boogie Brew compost teas? I use the Boogie Brew filter. I'm not really familiar with like their pre-made mix of stuff or whatever. I would, I'm a big fan of just making everything myself, but those pre-made mixes that they give you, I'm sure they're good. I've never looked at them under a microscope, so I can't tell you for sure. But if you don't want to go to the trouble or effort, or you don't have the materials or the knowledge, making some teas from those, I don't see why it would be a bad thing. But you could also just get your own compost and then make your own compost tea. I've got lots of videos on that sort of stuff. Famika says she's got a garden tower getting ready for plants. The stress of being a nurse right now. Oh yeah, I'm sure it's not fun being at work right now with everything going on. So I hope you hang in. I'll keep you in my prayers. Michelle Herta, hey Michelle, how are you doing? The next few weeks are still dipping into the low 40s at night. Should I wait until it warms up? Yeah, I would wait. I would definitely wait if it's going into the low 40s at night. If you do have an agribond or any type of frost blanket, you could use that to help protect. But if it's still dipping, I would wait. Unless your transplants are getting real big and they're just yellowing and dying to get out there, then then I would maybe just go for it and keep planting seeds as backups. But yeah, if you can wait till it's in the 50s at night, that'd be more ideal. So, okay, let's see here. So Karen says she's in Canada in Zone 6B, which is very cold. She started her tomatoes and peppers 2 weeks ago. So she's probably a couple of weeks away, or a few weeks away from being ready with those. The concrete or analytical check, concrete jungle girl. That's funny. Some cheap LED shop lights. I think the spectrum on that is just like one frequency of light. The LED grow lights are a multi-spectrum light, so that is going to be better for sure. LED grow lights have come down a lot in price. Um, you know, maybe check into those. I'm not super knowledgeable in grow lights because being in San Diego, I could grow year round and I never ever had to use lights. I've just, tried to learn a little bit from reading and watching videos, so I have some knowledge on it, but I'm not the best person to ask about grow lights. So Troy says, I have a chain link fence on 3 sides of the garden. What kind of plants would you use to take advantage of that? Yeah, that's a great question, and I like chain link fence. I had in my home plot where the one of my urban farms was, I had chain link running down both sides of the farm, and on there I put berries, I put grapes, I put passion fruit, but one caveat to that I would say is, what do you have? How close is this fence to your garden area? Because you want to make sure that they're not going to shade out your plants, especially like say in the winter when the sun is in the south, you may get some shade. Now in the summer, it's not going to matter as much. So think about that. Like if you grow, I don't know where you're at, but if you grow kiwis, those lose their leaves, I believe, in the winter, or grapes will lose their leaves. Berries will. So those are good things because they'll let in more light. You can also do plants. Like you could throw a tomato against that fence and just like tie it up to that fence. It's not the best trellis, but it would work well. I love passion fruit if you're in an area that can grow it. Okay, let's see. So Nate says, how does bokashi rate as a composting method? I love bokashi personally. Um, it's just a fantastic way to uh, if you have a bunch of extra scraps or you're in an apartment, you don't have a place where you can pile up a lot of stuff. It's a good way to do that. And this is an anaerobic type of fermentation that you then add to your compost pile later. For me, it helped me get temperatures of 160 in a small backyard compost pile. So I can't get enough bokashi. It's something that I will always do personally. But I made it in a 5 gallon bucket, and then I would add that to my aerobic pile, and then put it all in there. And it's just a fantastic way to add a lot more nutrition and microbes. Let's see here. Okay, let's see here. Yanni says, "Hey Steven, how's it going? Was wondering how you would approach a weed-filled bed that already has great soil. I'm planning on putting some tomatoes in there, and I was thinking straw might work." Yeah, you know, I'm guessing those weeds probably drop their seed in there, so you're probably gonna have to deal with more weeds seeds coming back up. So definitely knock those weeds, pull them out of there, especially if there's seeds on them. You don't want those dropping again. Um, and yeah, straw mulch can help for sure. I think that's a great way to go about it. Um, you may want to do it a bit deeper, and it'll help snuff them out even more. And then just stay on top of the weeds. And after about a year or 2 years, all those seeds that have dropped in there are going to wear themselves out. Also, don't till your beds. Keep them no dig, Charles Dowding style, um, so that any weed seeds that are deeper under there don't come to the surface and then germinate. Always add nutrients to the top. If you're going to add more compost, pull that straw back out of there, put the compost on, and then put the straw back on top of it. That's another method too. Pull the weeds out of there, put it like a good 2 inches of compost, then put the straw in there. Now the weed seeds have to germinate through those 2 inches and the straw. Um, that's a great natural way to do it. Thanks, Sybil. No problem. I love talking about gardening. Um, oh, thank you guys for helping out Concrete Jungle Girl with the lights. That's really nice of you guys. Yeah, if you're on a hill, then I think you gotta really just dig out some terraces, and do the best you can to keep if you have a heavy rain area, it's a real issue. So having some ground cover, some type of nice ground cover, uh, or grass that doesn't spread very quickly, that could really help you. Or putting down a bunch of wood chips may help if you don't have torrential rain. Look into digging swales as well. Yeah, I do have a Venmo. I also have my link for PayPal is down below. What is my Venmo? I don't know. Maybe send me an email. I can send it to you. I forgot what my Venmo is. But thank you, Mira. That's really really considerate of you. Nice, Papa Truck. You got the yellow passion fruit. That's awesome. I have not grown that one yet. There's so many cool types of passion fruit, and if you haven't seen the flower, it's insane. It's one of the most beautiful flowers. Um, cool. Awesome questions, you guys. Let's see here. We've almost done an hour. I'll stay on for another 10, 15 with you guys. Let's go back and see if there's any good questions on Instagram. If you guys aren't following me on Instagram, I'm at Nature's Always Right. I always do like updates on stories and all that stuff, so you guys can see what I'm doing. And um, okay, so my soil testing on Instagram asked me, "What are your thoughts on using cardboard for weed control and fertilizer?" Well, I love cardboard for weed control. I used it all the time. I had a lot of Bermuda grass on one of my plots, and I had also used wood chips. So the Bermuda would keep coming back and coming back. But what I would do is just I pulled back my wood chips, I'd put down cardboard, and then I'd throw more wood chips back on top, and that would really knock it out for most of the season, like 6 months. And every 6 months, I'd have to do it again because the cardboard breaks down. And cardboard is just a great way to add some more organic matter, which is going to be good food for the soil microbes. I'm a huge fan of cardboard, and the cardboard you want to use, though, don't use anything with colored ink, anything that's glossy. Black ink is okay. Make sure it doesn't have any glue on it. But if I learned fairly recently that cardboard is held together with cellulose. That's what's like holding together the layers. So there's nothing toxic about your standard brown, you know, cardboard. Oh, thanks, Matt, for posting the Instagram. Hey, Tony. He says any actual good tasting banana varieties that'll survive Zone 7B. Man, I'm about to move to Zone 7B, and I think it is in Tennessee, so I'll have to let you know. But out here in San Diego, people love the ice cream banana. People swear by that one, but I'm not sure if that will go down to those temps or not. Um, oh, thanks, Matt. Yeah, that's my email. My email is steven@naturesalwaysright.com. And just let you guys know, tomorrow's video for the basic gardening classes is going to be all about planting. Um, Planting your transplants. We're going to be planting tomatoes, peppers, zucchini squash, some basil, and potatoes as well. And potatoes are such a great crop that you guys can grow because it's really cheap to get the starts because you can just go to the store and you can buy potato seed from any of the Grow Organic or the seed companies, but they're more expensive. Like I think it's better just go get some organic sweet potato or organic red or russet potatoes from the store. Make sure they are organic though. That's important. And you can just store them in your cupboard for like 2 weeks. They're going to start growing these little eyes. You guys know you've cut up potatoes before. When those eyes start developing, that's actually what is kind of like the seedling of the seed potato, and that will come up and turn into a plant. And potatoes are a great one because it just has a lot of calories and it produces a lot of food. Most of the things that we're growing, like radishes and lettuces and greens, it has a lot of nutrition and vitamins and minerals, but not a lot of calories. And things like beans, dried beans, any like the legume stuff, potatoes, it's gonna be a much higher calorie stuff, which is a great thing to grow in a end of the world scenario. Not that we're in that, but it's always great to grow those. I don't know, something about potatoes is really fun to grow. It's really satisfying harvesting them. Um, Banana ice cream. Yeah, I don't know what zones those grow in, unfortunately. But I just know people that have them here in San Diego. Um, oh, okay. Oh, okay. So Karen asks, so she followed my vermicompost video, worm castings, and they're in the basement. And how do I know when the castings are ready to use? Well, I show that in my video about the worm food. I think I show a pretty good example of what they look like, but there's a certain look that they'll have. You'll just notice that everything that you put in there, whether it was the banana peels or the carbon, that's all broken down. So there might be a few pieces of straw or some things, but it's just going to be this really nice, like there are a bunch of these little balls basically, which is their castings or their manure. Um, and it'll be just a very soft, supple texture. Um, there won't be like chunks of things in there anymore. It'll be like one consistency. And maybe check my video out, or just look up, some pictures of worm castings on the internet. But once you've seen it, like you know what it is and what it looks like, and should have a nice smell to it as well. Oh, so Papa Truck says he grew some purple sweet potatoes in a container. So yeah, you can do that in a container too. Sweet potatoes are cool because they're vining, so they'll come up and out, and they just make the potatoes in like the main area where you planted them. So yeah, they can work great in a container. My buddy Kevin from Epic Gardening did a bunch of videos about growing potatoes in grow bags in the ground. He did like a bunch of different methods. Go check out his video if you want to learn more about growing potatoes, and he's got amazing gardening advice. So I highly recommend Epic Gardening, his channel and Instagram as well. Cross pollination. Josh is asking about cross pollination. So, you know, I don't know what plant you're talking about, but like in a fruit tree. So typically, like we can talk about apples. Um, Many different types of fruit. There's an A and a B pollinator, and you need the pollen from both to be inside of the flower to make a fruit. Um, or sometimes on different plants or trees, there's a male and a female flower. So for instance, on a squash plant, there's a flower and the female flower. The female, of course, has a question. So I don't know if the cross-pollination explanation came through to you guys or not, but um, I hope the explanation came through to you guys. I was talking about squash, the male and female flowers. So let's see here. Dixie Living says, have you ever perennialized potatoes? I have done that with sweet potatoes. And what she means by that is, or he, I don't know who it is, but they mean that so instead of harvesting all of your potatoes, you could leave a couple of them in the ground, and then next season, if they survive, they'll be able to come back up and bring out new plants. And that's what happened with my sweet potatoes. Now, if you're in a place where the ground freezes, I sort of feel like that wouldn't be possible, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But I had sweet potatoes from a couple plants, and I left a couple in the ground. They came back for like 3 years, and that was super fun. If everything's working good, could you guys say something in the chat? It looks like I'm totally on. Maybe my chat window is frozen. I think that's probably what it is. Let me restart it. Yeah, okay, cool. That's what it was. Thank you guys. I appreciate it. I I'm still new to streaming, but I'm glad I can at least figure out how to reconnect it now. So better than I used to be. Cool. Let's go back here. I want to see if I missed any other questions. Oh, someone asked me if they should start a farm right now with the whole coronavirus going on. And I think this is one of the best times to be a farmer, honestly. My buddy Jared, Jared's Real Food, he's the guy, my best friend who I started farming with 9 years ago now. He is getting so many customers now, he can't even grow enough food. He's on 2.5 acres. And so